Yo, what is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Week number 6 is upon us, if you can believe it. This NFL season every single year seems to just travel faster and faster. I got my guy Eric Sojash in the house. What's going on, buddy? How we feeling?
Feeling great. The season's flying by, man. I can't believe it's week 6 already. Man, we're more than a quarter way through. It's getting tight in some of them fantasy leagues, man. Some of them 1-4 starts are getting heavy.
It's brutal, man. The injuries are piling up like a madman. Before we get into that, though, we got Thursday night football tonight. It is the Denver Broncos taking on those Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be interesting, man. A 70-point Denver Bronco loss again. Is that coming? I think it might be.
Nah, Kansas City's not clicking like that quite yet.
That's true, yeah.
The offense isn't at a full tier yet. They're still kind of getting things figured out, still trying to figure out that number one receiver.
No, I agree. And I mean, they're trying everything they can possibly do. The Rashee Rice, we saw Justin Ross finally get in the mix last week. I'm hoping that turns into a thing because he's still my guy and I still believe in him. But it's going to be an interesting game on Thursday. But man, we got the injury roundup right now. And oh my goodness, how many players can we sit here and say that are, having a problem? JJ with the hammy. Let's start there. He goes on IR. This is a massive problem for a lot of people, including yourself. I know you got shares of JJ. I got shares of JJ. How do we see this transpiring with Minnesota? We're seeing Colt McCoy now in the, being invited to the Minnesota brass because people are speculating potential Kirk Cousins trade, and Addison and Osborne now got to pick up the slack. This changes everything for this Minnesota Vikings team.
Big time. That's a big time loss, big time fantasy loss. That's the number one pick in most drafts. That was one of my keepers. You know that in one of our leagues, that's your go-to guy. The guy you bank on week in and week out. It actually cost me a victory last week too, him going out. But one of the caveats or one of the good things about it is that he went immediately to IR. So if you have a league that has the IR spot, you got to put him in that spot right away instead of holding on and waiting. Those are the killers where you lose a week or two with an injury player and then he goes to IR anyway. I like that they immediately did that. You're not having him. You immediately have to pivot. So we're looking at KJ Osborne. He's not a bad pivot, but he definitely doesn't have that high ceiling. But he already has a rapport with Kurt, so I think he is a pretty good pickup off waivers this week, and I would definitely put him in my lineups. It's not a bad matchup right off the bat. They're playing Chicago, so but it's a big loss, man. Huge loss.
I'm looking for Addison, man. Addy is my guy. I thought, wide receiver 1 coming out of this past draft for me. This is now the time. Showcase what you can do on the field. Do that separation we all know you can do. Route tree is glorious, so it's a great opportunity. Well, one man's failure is one man's, opportunity. And this is an opportunity for Addison that I think he's got to take, stranglehold and then some to showcase what he can do on the field.
Yeah, for sure. This is a huge opportunity for him because now he's going to get that coverage looking at him. I don't think they're going to be rolling coverage over Osborne, so he's going to be the number one guy defenses probably focus on. I also think this is a big opportunity for TJ, right? They traded for him. They gave him the money. So this should be a big step up for him. He should get a whole lot more targets. And I've seen in the past where Kurt loves to target TJ. We've seen where he can just force feed him. So I can see that going up. If I have shares in TJ, I would definitely be happy right now. It's a good boost for him. So I definitely see that offense is going to be leaning on those two guys primarily going forward. And then hopefully they can get something out of that run game. It hasn't been consistent yet. They made that trade for Akers, so I feel like they're going to get him a lot more into the fold. He's an interesting player to look at to stash right now. But, they got to it's going to spread the love right now. We're going to see a different Minnesota offense, maybe a little bit more creativity out of Kevin O'Connell. They're not going to be able to focus on their number one guy as much.
It's true, man. Maybe that run game goes 50-50 splits between Akers and Madison. It's going to be very interesting. But one running back, he goes down. It hurts, man. He was just light in the league. A storm is Devin off the A-chain. A-chan. He messed up my freaking nickname, but I love this kid, man. Always did. Texas A&M product. When he was playing with Isaiah Spiller, I was in love with both these running backs. Still got a soft spot for Spiller, but, we're talking A-chain on the IR. He's going to likely be back after, week 11 because they got the bye in week 10. So it's a long layoff, and at this point, if you're in a redraft, it's hard to hold an injured player even though he's been popping off. But, potentially drop him and hope you can get him back a couple weeks before everyone else tries to get him.
I don't know if I'd play that game. He had too high of a ceiling for people to see him on that waiver and not pick him up. But I feel this is a tough loss, huge loss. He was just getting going. I feel like they were just unleashing him. There's going to be more of him involved in the playbook every week. And it just completely got ripped from underneath you. So that's just as a fan of football,
Mm.
that's kind of a big loss. He was one of the most electric players to watch right now. Anytime he touched the ball, it was a house call. So I didn't really have a lot of shares in him, but it's a tough one. But this is something you can pivot again. Jeff Wilson Jr. right on time. He's coming off IR. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
pick him up. I saw him available in quite a few leagues too. So he's already got a handle on this offense. You've seen him run this offense with McDaniels back in San Francisco. I can see him being a great player to pick up, and then obviously Raheem Mostert's going to pick up where he left off. Now he's going to get more carries, have more line share of that offense.
Yeah, 100%, man. And then a little bit deeper leagues, probably a Salvin Ekmod, but I mean, Salvin's my guy. I'm not going to stop promoting Salvin, but I mean, Devin was 7 TDs, like 500 yards. I mean, this is stuff we don't
Ridiculous.
see from a running back of his size to actually just be blowing up. But I mean, the speed was the killer. And I mean,
12 yards a carry. Unreal.
12 yards a carry. That's like NFL record stuff. What was Jamal Charles? I think it was 6.2 or whatever. He was crazy.
Something like that. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Double that.
Yeah, double that. Unbelievable. A-Chain. On the IR, it hurts. It does not feel good. James Conner, another running back, he finds the knee. He goes to the IR. And, I mean, now we got Demercado. We got Ingram. It's not a good backfield to trust for fantasy purposes. I mean, Demercado looked good. We'll give him that. In the touch of action, he had 17 carries so far this season. He looked good this past game in relief. But that stuff changes once you actually get the lead role, potentially. I mean, what are you thinking about Demercado replacing a Connor?
I had to look him up, man. That guy, I have never heard of him until I watched the game and saw that what happened to James, and then this undrafted guy comes in and he looked pretty good though. You never can go off the past. You kind of got to stay in the present, like we said. It's a week to week league. Same thing with players. Some guys can be made in a week. These are how some of the guys we know now they were found just out of nowhere, right? So don't get too caught up in the name. It looks like he's going to get his shot at the very least. This offense doesn't have a whole lot of options. So if he's able to take that rock and run with it, I don't see how they're going to, take it from him. And even when James comes back, if he's able to actually get something going, who knows? David Johnson kind of came out of nowhere in that sense in terms of the fantasy impact.
100%.
He just arrived on the scene. So yeah, Demercado, take a shot. You never know.
We'll see, man. Ingram's got a neck injury he's dealing with as well, even though he is still ahead of Demercado on the depth chart. So it's confusing a lot of people right now because they're terrified because depth chart usually they fear it right away. Don't get too scared about it. It's going to be the hot hand in this offense now without a James Conner. Sure. And James was playing well. You got to feel bad for him. He always has to deal with some kind of ailment because he was playing well in this offense with Dobbs.
Yeah, he was definitely playing well. He was one of those guys that you were able to get late in drafts. Everybody would, fall on Arizona players. Him, Marquise Brown, both of them are playing above their draft capital. So
100%.
It's unfortunate. It's a very tough loss. Very tough loss.
Big loss, man. Another one we got. I'm telling you, there's injuries galore this week. I mean, and your waiver wire is surprisingly thin. This is what I don't understand. A-Rich goes down. Anthony Richardson, shoulder injury. And then this was the MO we were talking about. This young man has got to learn to protect himself. Taking those types of shots like he took in Florida is not going to pan out in the NFL. You're going to see it, man. This already second time he's been injured for taking a big shot after taking off and trying to run. Yes, he kind of got twisted up weirdly and awkwardly, and then he fell on his shoulder, almost like a AC joint / collarbone situation. But when he was walking off the field, you knew it was bad news because this man couldn't even lift his arm. He's out, 4 weeks on the IR. Could be up to potentially 6 to 8 is what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah. It didn't look good at all. And I believe that's the third time, actually, because he had that one where he was rushing for a touchdown and he got stopped on the goal line. He shook it off.
That's right.
Like initially, but you could tell he was dinged up. Then he had the one where he had the concussion where he did score the touchdown, and now this is another one. So, man, for such a big dude, he's got to figure something out, right? Because this was kind of the knock on Bryce, too. We thought Bryce was too small, and he's not going to be able to hold up, but Anthony's not able to hold up. So this has been it's been a rough go. But when he's on the field, kid's produced, right? So this is one of those things where he just has to figure out how to stay on the field. The Colts, though, they have a great backup. They planned for this. You could tell they had a plan. And this is what they were going to do. Initially, actually, Gardner was probably going to be the starter. So it's kind of go back to plan, potential A, and go from there. It's not going to be a big drop-off in terms of how they move the ball up and down the field. The offense is going to look different, but it's actually going to improve some of those fantasy players' value. Some of those slot receivers that I know you're high on, even the tight ends, I believe. That's something where Gardner kind of specializes in that mid-game, the intermediate, the tight end, and the slot usage. So I could see that being a good tick for them.
Yeah, I'm down for some Josh Downs. We're down for Downs, but I mean, you got Mo Cox, Mo Problems, Mo Alley Cox. He's going to, hopefully his role starts to increase as well. Granson's a good tight end, and we saw what Minshew could do. Minshew Mania is back, obviously, now with A-Rich down, and we saw what he could do last week, and we saw the uptick in target share going to a Downs where he's at like 35 targets already now. So this is a good thing for these young players. It's going to uplift a Michael Pittman, and now we have this situation with the running backs. We'll deal with that during this course of the show, but I think Minshew could give them, the wide receivers, the uptick like you are saying. I think it is a positive in that respect for fantasy football.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'd be all over Downs right now in terms of fantasy. I'd be able to pick him up if he's available, or even send a trade offer for him, give him a low trade. People might not see the value in him there, and I could definitely go up quite a bit with Minshew, especially if it goes long term. They might even hold off on that. My personal opinion is not don't rush him back. You've seen this too much already in such a short amount of time. Sorry about that. Don't rush that, man. I would just pause on it, let this guy heal 100%. He can watch the game, let it slow down, let him completely understand it. You already have a trusted veteran in that QB room. So this could be even longer than people suggest. He may heal up and they just, if they win a few games, what's the rush?
100%.
So I could see the Colts being very, very cautious with this one.
Yeah, I agree. And what is the point of rushing them back? Your record isn't necessarily stellar at this point. You don't really know what you were going to be anyway. So it is going to, tell the tale in the next couple of weeks, depending on how many games, Minshew can put together and win. But one team that's going down the spiral tube is the New York Giants and Daniel Jones. Daniel Pennies. The poor guy, I feel for him, man. He's had a history of neck issues. Now he's got another neck injury. One more hit I've been reading is like could be really bad, like a risk to like almost career type stuff. So they need to take this one quite seriously from what I'm seeing. And I mean, Tyrod Taylor is the backup. I know Tyrod extremely well from the Buffalo Bills days. I mean, you could do a lot worse than Tyrod. But, I mean, Daniel Jones, he didn't look good this season. Anyway, this Giants team looks really bad under Brian Daboll, and now they got the Buffalo Bills this week, so it's going to be very difficult. I mean, how do you appropriately dissect this offense? Because right now, outside of Saquon Barkley, I don't even think I'm touching any of these guys right now. Even Darren Waller's on the injury report this week. It's just an absolute crapshoot in New York.
Yeah, it's a fire sale over there. It's rough, and it's not their fault necessarily. Like, granted, we all are professional teams. We're all supposed to hit the pay dirt and show up to work with the same intensity. But they had the horrible schedule to come out the gates here. Schedule makers did them no favors for a team that is not necessarily cream of the crop. They got all the opponents, all the defenses that just come to destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's what's happened to Daniel. And now, like you were saying, he has the injury. I didn't know it was that severe. I knew it was like obviously a neck thing could be very severe, but I didn't know it could be career. So that's prayers up for Daniel. Hopefully, it's not leading that way. But definitely, it's rough over there. You don't want no shares of that offense whatsoever. Not this year. Even Saquon, if he plays, I have him in a few leagues. I'm not comfortable if I have a couple leagues where I picked up Kyron early. I'm definitely playing Kyron and benching Saquon. So if you have options, that's what I would do. It's not a crapshoot that he's going to come out and play at a high level, especially against that Buffalo defense.
Yeah, it's not a good situation even for the long haul. I had a keeper trade show recently, and I'm saying you could trade him or even buy him on the low right now, because if you need running backs, I mean, it's a premium in fantasy football. You definitely need them, but it's not a good sign for the New York Giants. And Saquon is like the shiny dollar star, but I mean, it's just not going to work this year for top end point productivity. But we got Kelsey. Kelsey on Thursday Night Football. He's supposed to be starting. He's got the ankle injury now. I mean, this is a big one for a lot of people on Thursday night. Do you trust it? Because we saw him go down. They taped it up. He came out, scored a touchdown. Now you're playing the Denver Broncos. Do they even need him for this game? Could he be quote-unquote decoy and then let down a lot of people this week?
He could be, but you still got to play him. It's Kelsey. He's the number one tight end. He's probably going to catch a touchdown, and it's an opponent that's far superior. I think they've lost 15 straight games to KC, and this is in KC, so this is going to be 16 straight games to KC. So, like,
mark it.
Yeah, you could pretty much book that one in. You got to play him. You got to trust it. If he was able to come back in that game, I don't think he's going to miss this game. The only thing that might be an issue is if they get a big lead, and then obviously you're gonna bench him. But if they get a big lead, he's probably a reason they have the lead. So you got to play him.
Fair enough. And I'm with it too. It's Kelsey. You got to play him. If he says he's playing, you're definitely playing him. The Jahmyr Gibbs hamstring injury. And not okay, so the caveat here is it's not only is the hamstring a problem because he's going to miss time and he may not even play this week as well, but it's because of how well David Montgomery's been playing. I don't foresee a role for Gibbs, in the near future, outside of maybe something in the slot, maybe something in the receiving game. He's going to get his 10 touches. We even heard Coach Campbell talk about the fact that, he knew David Montgomery was going to be the quote-unquote bell cow back that he loves, and then the Gibbs guy was going to be change of pace, receiving back. You draft him in the 12th overall pick to be a change of pace back, man. This is insane. We might not see Gibby do anything special like we thought he was going to do this year.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to return on draft capital for all of us that took him in the first or second rounds. He's going to be one of those players that I believe, like fantasy, in keeper leagues, he was taken in the first or second rounds. But yeah, I do believe he's going to be one of those players that can hit the home runs, can have those boom plays, because he just has too much talent, and they're going to find ways to use him. I think they just haven't completely figured out how to unlock his talent yet. And then obviously the hamstring injury is going to set that back. But they rely too much on the backfield. They rely too much on using the, misdirection and screens and all those things out of the backfield to not see Gibbs eventually have some sort of a role in that offense that turns into some sort of touchdowns, boom plays. But I'm with you. Montgomery has that. This is not going to be a 50-50 thing. This is not going to be, this is a 70-30 at best right now. And it looks like that's how it's going to be unless there's an injury.
It's insane, man. I'm even thinking 80-20 could potentially be the way this is unfolding as Montgomery keeps running. He's running good. He looks fresh. He looks different than he did in Chicago, I'll tell you that. But these Chicago Bears have a problem as well. Khalil Herbert with the high ankle sprain. He tried, man. Big ups to him. He tried to get back out there, just could not even swing. He made one plant and was like, yo, call me out. I'm done. Can't do it. Roschon dealing with the concussion. There is no certainty. I think I read something earlier that also suggested we have not seen many players, if not all players, return the week after a concussion. So, Roschon may sit this week as well, which would mean that D'Onta Foreman would get a lot of touches this week, and then you'd probably have a split backfield between Roschon and D'Onta until Khalil Herbert does come back. This is such a hot mess, especially for fantasy. Clearly, I want Roschon back in because he's one of my guys as well, and I think he is the more talented back. But we've seen what D'Onta Foreman can do in this league when given the opportunity. Maybe it's, another resurrection.
Oh, yeah. D'Onta Foreman is one of those guys that you just don't understand how he doesn't get jobs. But then it's like as soon as he gets on the field, you're like, oh, this guy can play.
He can play.
But he can't keep a job for whatever reason. He doesn't get that sustainability. He doesn't even get that RB2 job. But every time he gets that full opportunity due to injury, he takes it and runs wild with it. We remember him last year in Carolina. I could see him doing that in a 1 or 2 week span here again. He's definitely a good guy to target if you need immediate play. But Roschon's the guy to have long term. We saw what Roschon was doing with limited touches. He only needed the offense to kind of figure itself out, which it's done, and now the opportunity. So if he can clear concussion protocol, I'm big on Roschon Johnson going forward.
So am I. And I think that the way the Bears have played the last couple of weeks, it appears they're starting to turn that corner just a little bit and figure a few things out. We just want to see it go to another level, and then we'll start talking maybe more highly on a Chicago Bears offensive system, man. Chris Olave, my guy, CO2. A lot of my guys on this injury report. I don't like it whatsoever. He's got a toe. He did play last week. Somehow he stubbed his toe and twisted his ankle in pregame. He was trying to walk it off. They gave him, decoy snaps, and then he scored 1 touchdown to save his fantasy day, but still was under the 10-point threshold. This one is very tough for me to trust because we know it could be a turf toe issue, and then the deep shots aren't necessarily there with Derek Carr because he's dealing with the AC joint sprain. We saw Derek Carr wasn't even limited today, which is mind blowing to me. I don't know what the hell they injected in that shoulder because it's almost healed. But what are you feeling on Olave right now? Because I'm a little bit nervous that this lack of points is going to continue at least for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, those turf toes, they're scary. You saw Amon-Ra had one. It took him a little bit to get back. They can linger, right? And they can be easily re-aggravated. That's what would scare me about it as well. The wrong tackle, guy rolls you up and it's right back to where it was, the first time you injured it. So that's one to really be cautious about. The way they used them last week, I'm afraid they probably might do the same again. You just got to hope for one of those big shots or the touchdown and to save your day. But he's too valuable to bench. Really depends on your roster, obviously, but he's too valuable at the end of the day, and he's the clear cut number one. Even though Michael Thomas is getting his shots, he's not taking enough away. He's not the guy that's going to be getting 12 targets and the red zone stuff. It's still not there for him. He's more of just a complete floor play. We saw Kamara come back. That looks like that's getting better. They're going to be running the ball with him. He looks fresh. His legs look like he's getting underneath him. So they have an offense that can offer a good balance, but they need Olave. He's still that guy. Him and Shaheed, they're the deep threats, and Olave is the one that actually has the route tree to go along with it. So they do need him. I think he's going to play. That's just a gut feeling, but we'll have to see.
I'm disappointed in these Saints right now. They have not utilized Olave the way I thought they would have. I mean, I think he's like wide receiver 30 right now in half PPR, and this is no bueno, man. Feed my man the ball. Like, you guys are killing me. But, I mean, Chris Olave is still one of these guys. I do agree. If he does play, I think you got to, chance it, and it's a high-risk, high-reward at this point. You got to play him. But Mike Evans, future Hall of Famer, is still dealing with a hammy coming off the bye week. This is a big one because he's been the engine that's been moving this team. Yes, okay, Baker's played well. I've given him his kudos, but, I mean, Evans is the guy that's uplifting this offense. So now without Evans, now you're going to have to lean on guys like, Chris Godwin, Kate Otten, without necessarily a great run attack. I mean, it might be a little bit tricky. I'm kind of thinking and believing that Evans will likely miss this week as well. If he does, he's definitely not going to be 100%. So it's going to be hard to trust with these Tampa Bay Bucks this week.
Very tough, very tough. That hamstring, you know how I am with the hamstrings, man. Those ones are tough. They linger like crazy. I don't play with them. And Evans, he's not necessarily older, but he is in terms of wide receivers. He's getting up there, so he's not going to be wanting to attempt that. As soon as you pull that thing again, it could cost you your season. So I think they're going to be very cautious with Evans. Very, very concerned with him. I have him in one league. I'm not looking to play him whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. If he plays and they say he's good to go, obviously you're gonna still think twice because re-aggravating the injury is gonna be one of those things like you're saying. But man, oh man, Mike Evans, he's been such a darling this year based on value to return on investment. It's been unbelievable, but hopefully he's on the field this week.
He's their deep shot too.
Hey?
He's their deep shot guy too, which you need that hamstring for that, right? Like Godwin's not the guy stretching the field right now, so he's gonna need that hamstring to be 100%. To him to even have that full effect that he has on the game.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement, man. I mean, it's been, like I said, the engine that's running the ship, and right now the engine is sputtering. But Austin Ekeler, so on the positive news, let's move away from the negative, and the positive is Austin Ekeler is pegged to return this week, apparently, from his injury. Nice. This is good news. They play on Monday night, so he gets an extra day of rest to get that. I believe it was his hammy, if I'm not mistaken. So, here we go. Austin Ekeler, these Los Angeles Chargers, they've kind of chugged along so far this season, and then, they got the early bye week, and hopefully they can start taking the top off of some of these defenses because I want to see them uplift to the next level now. We're kind of been in the same mode. It's almost like we're as high octane as they are. It's almost like their high octane is neutral, and I want to see them go into like fourth gear at this point. Let's change gears and let's hit the turbos. I want to see a little bit more out of this offense right now to believe that Justin Herbert is that guy that can do this.
This is a good week to try in terms of getting your running back. I know you've been missing this guy. He's that guy. He's the engine that gets them going. He's the little touchdown scorer. He finds ways to just get touchdowns nonstop. He's been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years. But this week is going to be challenging. They're going against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are coming off an embarrassment. So they're not going to be looking to get embarrassed back-to-back weeks and national games, spotlight games. So it's going to be a little challenging. And this is kind of a what would you call it? I don't know if it's a rivalry game, but Kellen Moore going against his old team, so it's the offensive coordinator going against the defense that knows the OC. So this is going to be a little bit of a chess match and a little bit of a prove-it game too. I'm really, really, really looking forward to this one. It's going to have a lot of little different parts and different nuances to it.
Yeah, we talk revenge games for players all the time. The revenge game for coaches. It's possible, too. It does happen. We already covered Barkley potentially pegged to return, so we won't even go in that direction. But recap time. Let's talk our teams. And I don't care if y'all like it or not because they're with some of the best teams in the NFL, so we got to touch on them. If they were crap, we wouldn't talk about them. Bills lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bills Mafia, my goodness. I did not like what I saw in London whatsoever. I mean, it took us forever to get going. I don't know why Ken Dorsey did not adjust earlier in the game, because we saw, when, their backs were against the wall, the time was ticking off the clock. Then they started moving the ball like it was in seconds. I think we scored in like 50 seconds to almost try to stay in that game. But the Bills, man, they keep getting decimated by injuries. We lost Matt Milano. We lost Daquan. I mean, frick, man, a week after we lost Trey. Why can't this team stay healthy? I said to you many times, give me this team fully healthy 1 year. Just 1 year, okay? And then we'll talk. If they lose, I'll shut my mouth forever, because I did believe this team was that good to do it. They still are. They're still very talented. But now you got holes. Now you got issues, man. Elam was getting cooked all over the field. Don't like that whatsoever. Yes, he's still young. He's only 22 years of age. But this offense needs to now carry the team a little bit more. The defense played unbelievably. A.J. Epinesa was a man possessed in London. I don't know what they were feeding that man in London. He was all over the field. But the offense has got to get more consistent, and they got to do it on a greater stretch, in my opinion. But like I said, maybe the Jags just got the Bills' number for the last several years, and that's something that we just got to get used to.
Yeah, we were mentioning that. It's a tough one. You had to wake up really early for that game. So I know as a Bills fan, that was a tough one to swallow. You expected a better performance out there. But like we were mentioning, the Jags, they seem to have a bit of a number there. They seem to play the Bills really tough. The defense, specifically. They play really tough defense against that offense. Maybe they just match up well. I'm not sure what it is. But the biggest injury for you guys is Milano for me. I was just praising him to you the other day. I can't believe how great he is and how you guys found him. And then just like that, you're going to lose him. That one's big, because like you lost Trey, which is devastating, but you've lost him before, and I feel like you guys have found ways to adapt. This one's definitely it's gonna test you guys. You guys are definitely gonna be tested here for the coming weeks and see how you're gonna adapt without him. But that was a loss that I was surprised by. I didn't pick the Bills to lose that one. Definitely thought if they did, it would be a close game, maybe a field goal, something in overtime. I didn't peg them to be trailing going into the fourth and be the ones chasing the game. So that was a shock to me. We're definitely going to see them bounce back. Unfortunately for the Giants, this is not the week to play the Bills after an unfortunate loss.
Right. No, it's terrible. It's terrible for the Giants. Good for the Bills. I don't know, man. Obviously, it was nice to see Von Miller back on the field. I mean, that's a positive as well. But I mean, the linebacking core we got AJ Klein signed, and I'm no disrespect to any NFL player, because I'm not in the NFL, and obviously they can still play football. But we're talking about, guys that are trying to keep their career going. It's just, it seems like AJ's just past his prime just a little bit, and I don't think he's really going to do anything. So now we're going to see a lot of Bernard, and we'll see what Bernard is made of. I'm a big fan of this young man. I think that he can play ball. He is the baller type. We'll see. I mean, but this offensive scheme, I mean, we see the criticism once again for Stephon Diggs getting fired up, tossing the iPad on the sidelines. But, it was great to see Josh come out and defend him and say he's like the spark plug that fires our team up. He's like, I'm actually sick and tired of y'all talking ish about, my guy Stephon Diggs. And I was glad to see that, because, these guys don't want to lose. They're competitors, man. And we talked about, the bromance back and everything. I think that, I would be pissed off too, because that touchdown that could have been to a Stephon Diggs would have changed the game. Josh Allen was under pressure, underthrew the pass. If he would have hit him straight one-on-one down the field, that was a, touchdown 6 in 2 seconds for Diggs.
Yeah, game changer that they missed on. No, the media is just trying to find reasons now. Diggs, one week he's happy and obviously he's dominating. So obviously he's trying to just piggyback off that. They want to keep it going. He didn't get to do what he needed to do. He's going to be frustrated. Anybody would have been. It's a no story. They're just looking for it. I'm glad Josh was able to shut that up really quickly too. There's nothing there.
I agree. Giants fans, I feel sorry for you. If we lose this game, then I'm panicking. But I mean, it could be it could be revenge game week for Tyrod. If Daniel Jones is not playing this week, Tyrod playing against the Bills. Oh, mama! I'm sorry, Tyrod. I'm gonna send you flowers right now, because I think you're gonna get the bum rush.
Yeah, no chance. There's no chance there. I'm not even gonna dive too deep into that. Buffalo's got that one. They're pissed. They're not going to slip up twice. McDermott won't let them slip up twice. They're just no chance.
Agreed. So pivoting over to those Eagles, fly Eagles fly. They got pushed by these LA Rams. The new look, I should say, Rams offense with Cup, Puka, and I mean Tutu, Kyron. They look good. They challenged. They pressured. They look good offensively. I mean, everyone that was worried about the Cooper Kupp show taking over from Puka, I mean, Puka got 16, Kupp got 15 points, so I think they're both here to stay, and they gave your Eagles a run for their money.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially in that first half, and none of that was a surprise to me. I personally was a little scared going into that game. I was posting on Twitter how this one could be a trap game. Don't sleep on these Rams. This is a team that obviously was in the Super Bowl recently, and a lot of those players are, the key names are still there in terms of Stafford and Donald, and then they got Cup back, and then they got McVay still doing his designing on the offensive side, and then they drafted this fantastic receiver in Puka Nacua. So they're a legit team, man. They've been playing fantastic. They caught Seattle sleeping and gave them an L week 1. They played San Francisco tough for 3 quarters. Like, I think this team is no joke. So I'm actually quite impressed with the way the Eagles were able to come out in the second half and control the clock, get a little bit of a stronger handle on Cooper Kupp. He didn't tear us up like he was in the first half, and then eventually control the game and run it out there. It wasn't the Eagles' best performance, but they've been a pretty consistent team this year in terms of whatever they need to do to win the game, whatever formula they need to find to win the game, they found it. And that's something that you can't sleep on.
Yeah, they look good, and I mean, when it comes to how they perform, like it's almost like you have too many mouths to feed. You know, like you're feeding DeAndre consistently on the regular, but now Deontay is going to the opposite direction. Smith is not catching as many passes, and it's the AJ Brown grown ass man show. But then they mix in a little Dallas Goedert this past week, which was nice to see because he's been the forgotten man for like the first 4 weeks of the season. And now you kind of got this, MO of saying, how are we going to beat you? You do not know. You got a game plan for all of us each and every week. They look good. I got to say, kudos to the Eagles. They did look good.
Super balanced, super balanced. And we got a lot more out of Hurts' legs this week, too. He hadn't been using his legs as much this week. I think he got about 70 yards rushing, so he's back to doing that again. Yeah, it's going to be tough. In terms of fantasy, I was one of those guys that was a little bit skeptical when everybody was saying, I don't know about Devontae. He's going too high. Him and Dallas Goedert, they don't play well together. He had his breakout when Dallas was injured. I was one of the guys that was like, nah, Devontae's skill's too good. But this week kind of scared me. Devontae had a complete dud, and it was the Dallas Goedert breakout. So maybe there is a little bit of truth to that. I'm hoping they can find a little bit more balance. Devontae's way too talented to be coming out with, 1 catch for 9 yards or any kind of those performances. He's way too good. We got to find a way to keep all 3 of those guys fed.
Yeah, I call him Deontay. My bad. It's Devontae. I mean, I should know that smack. Yeah, smack in the face right now. But hey, it's late. Okay, I need a drink. Leave me alone. But I do like the Eagles and what they're doing. 5-0 in this league is no joke. Starting is out the gates is always something you got to take notice of. That defense, though, yeah, they were double teaming Carter every single play, and this man was outshining in Aaron Donald. This kid's Shame on you, NFL, for allowing this man to drop to these Eagles. You got to love what you see out of Carter because, I mean, it's just scratching the surface.
No, the NFL guys were smiling on us. They smiled right on us. We were in the Super Bowl, and then we got the best defensive player in the following draft. I don't know how that happened, but it's remarkable. He's the best defensive player on our roster, in my opinion, and that's 5 games into his NFL career. He's already shown that he's unguardable. He's unblockable. Just gonna grow from there, man. He's just gonna grow from there.
I'm loving it. So damn good. And I mean, okay, let's talk about a situation I know we're all, crying about this week. It's JT. JT returns. We spoke about it on the last show. And, okay, maybe I jumped the gun a little too fast because hypocritical on my own statements of saying, guys need to take some time when they've been out for some time. And I'm all like, yeah, you start Jonathan Taylor because it's JT. And I just got kicked in the teeth as well. Zach Moss shines as JT inks his new deal. Colts are saying, a bigger role is coming for JT this week, and I fully believe that, but I'm thinking more of like 50-50 splits in this offense because we've seen how good Zach Moss has been performing, and with a Gardner Minshew, he's going to require that run game to keep this offense moving in the right direction, so maybe it's, couple weeks to go before they start to unleash the true potential that we know JT does have on the field.
Yeah, it's coming sooner than later. They're gearing up. They didn't pay this guy to not take the dominance of the backfield. So that check was signed. They're flowing into his bank account on a weekly or biweekly basis. So he's gonna get those carries sooner than later. Um, I'm a little disappointed in myself because I was the guy saying I'm feeling bad for Zach. Zach's earned this role. He's been killing it. And then hearing JT's coming back forced me into a frenzy where I decided I was going to bench Zach Moss in one league. 30 points on my bench cost me. Foolish me. I've been watching the guy. He's been killing it. I was saying he's killing it.
Yep.
I should have just stuck to that and just seen and waiting to see how they were going to play it out instead of like assuming that it was going to be all JT right away. That one hurt. But it's going to eventually lean that way. Like I said, you follow the money. In the NFL, that's usually how I do it. Unless the guy shows that he cannot play after he gets the money, like a Kenny Galladay or something like that,
Yeah.
you follow the money. So they paid him to absolutely use the shit out of him. It's going to happen. It's just Zach's been fantastic, so there's no rush, and I don't blame them. Why rush it? He is coming off injury. It wasn't just a contract holdout. There was an injury also involved in there, so I think that gets lost in the shuffle. That JT is not 100%. I think people didn't want to talk about that side of it. We talked so much about the money and the disrespect from Irsay that we forget that the man was injured. If we just focus on the injury, we probably would have played it completely different coming out of the his first game back, because usually when a guy's coming off something like that, they do tend to need some time to gear up, especially for their first game of the season.
See, gear up. I think you ended that perfectly. Would take time to gear up and get the football legs. Because, when did he hurt that ankle? It was like, God, what, maybe like week 11, 12 last year-ish?
Yeah, it was later in the season.
Right,
sure,
so
yeah.
I want to suggest, and that's why my opinion on the matter was he held out because he wanted the pay raise. He was like, put me on the pump because you don't want to pay me, then give me 4 games off and we'll call it even deal. I got my raise on the games off. But I get what you're saying, and I think that the way that you ended that with it takes time to gear up was exactly the same thing I was talking about when it came to Josh Jacobs' holdout for his contract. It would take him for roughly 3-4 games to get his football legs back, and now we're seeing, what we expected out of a Josh Jacobs. So maybe another 2 weeks for JT, I want to say, until it goes to like maybe 80-20, 90-10-ish. But, I mean, again, Moss has been playing well enough that he's earned his touches, and it's very difficult to remove them from that man.
Yeah, absolutely. Moss has earned it, and he's made the best out of it, so they can't complain. They got a good problem on their hands right now, running back.
100% agree, man. We got some problems in the media. Richard Sherm. I've never been a big supporter of the Sherm, but I understand he's got his own show. He's got to do some talking. But he's talking some silly crap right now to me. He's calling out CeeDee Lamb, talking like he's not an elite wide receiver 1 in this league. Shame on you, Sherman. Because, I mean, right now, let me break it down to y'all, man. 35 targets so far for CeeDee Lamb this season. And, yes, it has come with issues and game script and how the Cowboys have been playing football. I mean, the opening contest, they didn't even need the offense because the defense won him that game. But he ranks to the likes of Tyler Boyd and Josh Downs with only 35 targets. I mean, going back to last year, targets per game, we see CeeDee Lamb 4.18 targets fewer than last season. So, I mean, you got to call it apples to apples, not apples to oranges, because to me, calling out CeeDee Lamb and saying he's not a specimen, an elite, true number 1 wide receiver, we saw it last year. The breakout happened. Don't know what the heck you're trying to say about CeeDee Lamb, so it's cover up for Dak Prescott, in my opinion, not been able to spread the ball around to all his wide receivers. You got yourself a Brandon Cooks to pull coverage from Lamb. You don't even pass to the man, so how do you even know you could be tested down the field? I think there's a lot more problems than we can say. Kellen Moore not being on this offense is one of them.
So you mad, bro?
Just a little. Just a little.
Sherm's he said some things that I don't necessarily agree with as well. CeeDee's definitely a number 1. In terms of the targets, I don't focus too much on it in terms of like as if they're hurting his ability to perform. Now, it's hurting his opportunity as much as it has been in the past, but that's not because the Dallas Cowboys don't want to use them. It was the game script, in my opinion. They had a couple games where they absolutely didn't need it. They blew these teams out. You break those games down, there's not going to be a lot of targets. You won by 35 points. The problem is he is still the target leader on the team. However, he's not getting enough targets for your alpha receivers. They got to find a better way to be more creative. And I think it has to do with the offense. So it doesn't make sense why they would fire, an offensive coordinator that got them to the number 1 offense and say that they're going to improve this offense by being more balanced. And then 5 games into the, season, they're actually significantly worse than they were before. And we're not talking about that part of it, right? Everyone's just talking about Dak when he has a bad game with 3 picks, or we're talking about the defense, how they talk a lot of trash and then they didn't show up. But there's a huge gap here with Mike McCarthy and his ability to call a creative offense, I believe, and that's where we're missing. That's where CD's lacking in his opportunities. That's where Brandon Cooks is lacking with his opportunities. And then the other thing I want to touch on is they let Zeke walk. Tony Pollard didn't look like a bell cow back to me when he was playing second fiddle to Zeke. So when they said we're going to just turn the keys to him, it didn't feel like it made a lot of sense. And now you're looking at like, well, can he really be that? Do you really want him to be a 25 carry guy? And if you don't, then why are you playing this style of offense where you're not throwing to CeeDee Lamb 12 times a game? Those two things don't make sense to me. They're not balancing out.
100%. And yeah, every single point I agree with, because McCarthy has hit the expiration date on calling plays. Remain the head coach. Just, do that. I understand, your game management still is, porous at times, but calling plays, it's past expiration. I'm being a little hard on a Dak Prescott. I get it, but I do agree that, the changeover in the scheme, maybe it was similar schemes, but we know Mike McCarthy. We've seen this dance many times. I'm with you on the Tony Pollard thing as well, because I did not believe, that he is a 250 touch type of running back in this league. He's explosive. He's fantastic. He's a great talent on the field, but it's about usage. I mean, we got to understand some players can and can't do it. We talk about A-Chain. He was almost a 200 rush guy back at Texas A&M in his senior season. And look, now he's not even close to that. They've overused the Devin A-Chain. He's so explosive and fast. All of a sudden things happen, man. Hammies get pulled, soft tissue happens. He gets hampered with a knee. Tony Pollard eventually may go down. I mean, I don't want to, curse the guy, but he's going to go down because he's just not built to carry the load like that. And I'm with you. If you guys are going to be doing this high-powered, speedy offense with a guy like Tony Pollard, I mean, we see the Bills doing it with James Cook, because you can almost make that comparison to say Pollard and Cook are very similar skill sets. Then you got to pass the ball to your number one guy. Look at Diggs. He's eating right like crazy right now. Do the same for CeeDee Lamb.
Absolutely. No, I'm not liking the way they're running the offense. People have been calling them out, but they've been able to hide because the defense was so dominant. But, getting whooped like that on national TV might make them look in the mirror a little bit more now, too, and say we have to do something, because we aren't just trying to win some games or the games that we're supposed to win. We're trying to win all the games. Dallas is in a Super Bowl window. They have a dominant defense. They have CeeDee Lamb that we both believe in is a star receiver. So they got to figure that out. They got to figure a way to get 20 to 30 points a game, like somewhere in that 25, average 25 a game on offense, not just defense scoring touchdowns. And the way they're running the offense right now, that's not conducive of that type of offense. They got to open it up.
Yeah, I agree, man. So it poses the question, are the Cowboys overrated?
Overrated. I think people got a little too hyped early. I think we got hyped on the way they were dominating some teams. Granted, they weren't the best teams. We watched 5 weeks of the Giants, not a great team. We watched 5 weeks of the Jets without Aaron Rodgers, average team at best. So we've kind of gone a little too far with the wins that they got. But I still think the Dallas Cowboys are a good football team. And this is coming from an Eagles fan that, in my heart, I hate the Cowboys.
Sure.
But I respect them as a opponent. Sure. They're a worthy opponent. They're definitely the team that we were trying to elevate ourselves to match what they've been doing and the standard that they've set. So I don't take no credit away from what they've built over there. They're definitely a good team, not a dominant team, not any of that generational defense talk. All of that was overrated. Super talented. I think they can still make that run. You don't want to run into them in their home stadium when the things are clicking and they're hot, playing on that fast-paced turf. They're a different team. So I still think the Dallas Cowboys are legit. Dak, he's a good quarterback. He's just not the kind of quarterback that you want to have in multiple situations where he has to carry the offense. I don't think that's in his skill set.
In his DNA. I'm with you. I don't want to be so rough on them, but the meter is starting to go to the middle. It's starting to go to the middle to say, the overrated meter. And I'm kind of sitting here saying, okay, hype comes from something, and when you've overhyped, man, that meter drops like a stone for me in water. And right now, I don't know, man. These Cowboys really got to show something because, I mean, the 49ers are the cream of the crop, and they made them look like the New York Jets. So it's a very tough situation for me in Dallas. But they face those Chargers this week. What do we make of these Chargers coming off the bye, losing Mike Williams? My biggest pain point with the Chargers has always been the coaching with Staley, and I think that he's the limiting factor on this team where Kellen Moore is uplifting this offense. But like I said, I want to see these Chargers take yet another leap versus what still is a very good defense.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. Like we said earlier, that one's a big one. I got that one circled on my calendar. Can't wait to see it. You got, like we said, it's going to be a revenge game as well. All kinds of moving pieces, all kinds of talent on the field as well. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm a little concerned for the Cowboys coming into this one. They don't want to have another stinker. Like, they can lose this game and salvage their season, still be a good team, but they cannot get blown off this field again. They cannot have their defense get embarrassed, having teams go up and down the field. They're not conducive of that type of game script. I don't think the offense can play like that. Like we said, we want them to open up the offense, but I don't know if they have I don't know if Dak is ready for that type of game plan right now. He is way more effective when they're a balanced offense, which it's kind of a basic thing to say because a lot of quarterbacks are more effective with a balanced offense. But just the way Dak Prescott surveys the field, the way he likes to get into his comfort zone, the way he can move the safeties and stuff off of play action, I feel like that's just his strengths. They need that run game to be at least 70% for them to be an effective offense, in my opinion. So that's going to be the big tell right there. If they can run the ball, the Cowboys will be in this game. If the Chargers are able to take them out of that run game early, if you get Khalil Mack looking to set records again, then this could be another performance where I come back here and I'm saying what you're saying, and the Cowboys are overrated.
Yeah, man. Mac Attack is coming off, what, 6 sacks? Almost beat the record.
6.
Oh, my Lord. And hopefully Bosa's back. I mean, Prescott could be running for his life. It's going to be a very good show on Monday Night Football. But we're talking New England Patriots. Rumor has it that Bobby Kraft, he's not having a good time going to massage parlors anymore because he's flat out angry at what's going on with the win column and Bill Belichick. And apparently the seat is very hot. And I mean, how do you pivot away from one of the greatest coaches in NFL history because he no longer has a guy named Tom Brady, and Mac Money Jones is no longer, I've had to strip that nickname from him. It's Mac, I don't even know, No Money Jones, but it's not looking good offensively 2 weeks in a row. I mean, they look terrible. They've been blown out 2 weeks in a row. And they're still saying we're sticking with Mac Jones, but you got no weapons, you got no wide receivers, your run game is piss poor. I just don't know how you fix this problem.
Yeah, you got to stick with the mac and cheese. You got to stick. Kraft has no choice. They got to run it out. They got to ride this out. It's going to be a tough separation, but it's one that I think both of them are kind of looking at it like, what else are we going to do? Like, Bill's been here. This guy is football. He is football. He's like, as much as people think he's something of like I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like he doesn't give us a lot. He doesn't give us a lot of his personality. But if you follow the league enough and you talk to or you follow a lot of the other people that have been around him, they've given you a lot of who he is to paint a picture that I feel comfortable enough that I'm like, he is football. He loves football. He's a football guy, and he understands it through and through. I say all that to say he knows what's coming. He knows, like, I can't keep losing like this and putting up 3 points and then getting. I don't even want to be here if this is how I'm doing it. Like, this is not what we do. Like, anybody when we're doing fantasy, even though, when you're putting up stinkers like that, I might be selling. Like, yeah, somebody want to buy my team because I'm not performing, right? So I'm just saying, like, I think it's coming to that from both sides. It's not going to be as harsh as people think it is. It's not going to be something mid-season. It's not going to be something like out of nowhere. It's not going to pop up on a headline and then all of a sudden he finds out. They're going to respectfully do this as they should. He is the GOAT. Kraft is fully aware, but it's a business, and I think they're both going to handle it appropriately at the end of this season because the way this is going, they can't turn this around, man. They can't turn this around.
How do they salvage it? How do they salvage it? How many wins? 6? 6 keeps them in New England? 7?
Let's put it this way. I'm not even going to throw wins out there. I'm going to put it this way. They're going to finish last in that division.
Yep.
They're going to like the Jets without Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Are going to be able to say we were still a better football team than the New England Patriots. And that alone is going to tell the Patriots, like,
we can't.
forget this. We gotta switch it.
Yeah.
We have to hit the reset button. Bill, let's just figure it out. We'll find a ceremoniously way to do this, but we have to move on. It's not happening, right? Like, they just don't have it. They paid Juju the money they should have paid Jacoby.
Totally. What was that
And
about?
it doesn't make sense.
Biggest blunder. And the tight end monies. You're still paying Jonnu Smith to be playing for the Falcons. And I just Bill, man. I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
The poor drafting over the last several years. I mean, the terrible contracts that he's been dealing out. I mean, this team was set up for disaster past a Tom Brady. I mean, the argument's always been said. Who was the guy? Was it Brady or was it Bill? And right now, we got to say it was Tom, as much as that makes me throw up in my mouth.
It looks like it was. And unfortunately, the best thing they had going for them this year is Christian Gonzalez. That was like the one bright spot right now that everybody is looking forward to over there, and he's done. It's rough, man. It's really rough. They can't get Ramondre going. Everybody thought Ramondre was going to be some sort of a play. Nothing's working.
Nothing. It sucks. And I got shares of Ramondre. I was a big supporter, and you're hurting me, man. And nobody even wants to trade for him outside of me getting like Daniel Jones. It sucks, man. But let's talk about these Atlanta Falcons. You had a good stat you brought up to me the other day. It was Desmond Ridder has not lost a home game going back to his collegiate days. I was like, are you kidding me? So they're playing at home this week, so you can bet on a Desmond Ridder this week, y'all. We'll see. This will tell the tale about how good he is. I like what I see from these Atlanta Falcons right now. I truly do. I had my question marks on a Ridder. I didn't dislike his game overall coming out of Cincinnati. I thought there were a lot of good pieces. He's got a good arm. He's got good capabilities. He's got mobility. It just his field reading was the issue. Can he spread the ball around the field? Can he go left with high-end consistency? They just traded for Van Jefferson, who was also one of my guys that has failed. I don't miss often, y'all. When I scout player, I don't miss. But this is a big miss for me right now. Van, you disappoint me. Outlook is trending slowly up in the right direction because you got a freak like Bijan making highlight reels every single week. Just keep on moving the way you're moving, using the double tight end sets. I mean, I know Jonnu went down with an ankle, but they got finally Kyle Pitts in the mix. You're starting to sprinkle in a little Drake London. Things are looking up, man, for me.
That was the best performance I've seen from Ridder.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. He looked great. The way they moved the ball was fantastic. The way he spread the ball. The shots they took down, back shoulder shots they were throwing to Drake. It looks like they're finding exactly the way to use everybody's talents. They were spreading out Pitts, putting him one-on-one with corners, putting him one-on-one with linebackers, hitting slants. I dare we say that they might be something. A lot of us were high on them in terms of sleeper teams, but we still thought Desmond Ridder wasn't going to quite turn into a prolific passer. And what he showed me last week said maybe I was a little too harsh on him. Like, I didn't think he had that in him at all. Just to be completely transparent, that was a shock to me against the Houston Texans. That's the same defense that beat the absolute piss out of Trevor Lawrence. Shocked me in that week too. So I'm not sure if it's Houston's playing Jekyll and Hyde or if it's Desmond. This is the week that we're going to talk about it. Like we said, he's a hometown gangster. This guy doesn't mess up at home. He handles his business at home. I don't know if he's getting some at home from his lady or something that he can just show up at the arena and handle it. But this guy doesn't lose when he's at home. He's got Washington coming in. I'm putting my money on him. If he blows this one, then I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say anymore. It is interesting, the Jekyll and Hyde approach with the Houston Texans, because they are failing us in key opportunities. What did I say last time? I said, watch out for C.J. Stroud on the comeback kid, ice in his veins. He won the game for y'all, and the defense let him down. So you got to give credit where it's due. Desmond Ridder was able to move the ball down the field enough to get the victory. And, I mean, can he do it 2 weeks in a row? I mean, keep leaning on your guys, safety blankets, take what the defense gives you. Very, cliche, but it's working for what these Falcons are doing. So, Dirty Birds, rise up. I do like what I see. It looks very, very good. But let's switch to a final thing, to switch it over to college football, a guy that we're, pretty bullish on right now. It's Caleb Williams. And, okay, there's a lot of storylines discussing Caleb, suggesting, he may stay one more year at USC because the NIL money is a little bit better than what the NFL is paying for rookies in the first year, even though he's going to be likely the first overall pick if he was going to come into this NFL draft. I mean, likely a front runner for the Heisman. A lot of different opinions I'm seeing right now from a lot of people, and they're suggesting, he's the next Patrick Mahomes to, his game isn't rounded out because he's a backyard ball type of player, very much off script and not, the quote unquote technician wise that they want to see coming out of college football. Where are you with a Caleb Williams? Because I know where I'm at. I'll let you go first, and then we can kind of debate from there.
All right, I'm pretty clear on Caleb. My stance on him is very clear. He's a no miss prospect. Period. I think Caleb Williams is the number one pick. Everybody knows he's going to be the number one pick, and he's the number one pick that's not going to miss. We're not going to talk about injuries or anything like that. That's obvious. But in terms of just the talent, what he's doing at the collegiate level, the ability to carry his team, the ability to win the Heisman, come back and be the front runner for a second Heisman, which hasn't been done in 70 years or some unrealistic. This guy's unbelievable. So he is what everybody's saying he is. I believe that when he comes in, let me shape it in terms of the NFL. When he comes into the NFL, I believe he will be somewhere around the top 15 quarterback, somewhere in that range, 17-ish. Now, we do know the NFL has the ability to F up somebody's trajectory. We saw Trevor Lawrence come in with an Urban Meyer, effed up the trajectory. Now it's back on track, and he's exactly where he was supposed to be, and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, right? Mm-hmm. Caleb, to me, is just in that same realm. If he comes into the NFL, which he will, as the first pick, which he will be, and he gets to a situation that doesn't F him up, he'll be a top 15 to 17 quarterback as soon as you see him hit the NFL.
And I'm with you, and I can't disagree. The thing I saw even this past week, they struggled immensely with an Arizona team. And, okay, the Wildcats are not, some great program at this point, but give them credit where it's due. They came out to play that game to make a stand and say, we're going to punch you guys in the teeth like this is our Super Bowl, like this is our national championship. Caleb really did struggle. It was one of his worst games I've seen in a long time for him as a passer, and that's a good thing. A lot of people are going to take that as a bad thing because he's going to grow from stuff like that. And when you see him not play his best ball and they still come out and win, that tells you everything you need to know about a young player, because it's not just necessarily heart for me. It's can you fail, can you be foiled and still come out on top because you made 12 great plays in the game. And this is exactly what Caleb did on the weekend, this past weekend. And it's one of these things that, okay, yeah, does he play a lot of backyard ball? Sure. I mean, is it, does he take some time? His receivers aren't getting open. There's no separation. The defense is pressuring him. He's rolling out when he shouldn't, and he's doing all these things, sidearm passes. We see this from Patrick Mahomes on the weekly. So none of y'all cussing Patrick Mahomes because he's got Super Bowls in his closet, but now you're cussing a Caleb Williams because he's not quote unquote technically sound with footwork and etc. But for me, it is absolutely 100%. Right now, as we see Caleb, surefire shot like we saw with a Trevor Lawrence. He was the surefire shot that we were all talking about as the number one overall pick. I'm a big fan of Caleb Williams. If we talk career-wise, depending on landing spot, obviously, depending on coaching, like you said, depending on how the situations do round out, Drake May is not far behind, in my opinion. And I think you give Drake May an offense that is going to be conducive to his abilities. Drake May will definitely challenge in the grand scheme of media speak to suggest, oh, they messed up. They should have took Drake May over Caleb Williams. We will have that conversation on numerous occasions, in my opinion, because I think May is very close to Caleb. But yes, Caleb is and should be the top pick in this whenever he does come out of college.
Oh yeah, I think he's the consensus one. I don't think too many people are going to argue that. But Drake is fantastic. We were big on Drake like a year earlier. He got my eye when I was watching Josh Downs tape, and this Drake guy is phenomenal. So he's definitely going to be somebody that, if, like you said, if he lands in the right spot, he's going to question. He's going to push that button over and over again. Just Justin Herbert, Tua Styles could be a comparison there. But I do think, just to make sure we stay on point here, Caleb significantly has a higher upside than Tua, though. This is a guy that has the upside that I think there's no ceiling in terms of what we've seen, because the physical talent is there, the arm talent is there. The athleticism is ridiculous. Let's just see how he grows from there, man. He checks all the boxes.
Go back to his OU tape, and you will see the rushing ability. Maybe he put on a little bit more weight to kind of take some hits, But you go back to OU when he first took over from Spencer Rattler and he made that one huge run. It was like 70 yards plus. And I was like, holy crap, this kid is something. And the way he does deal the ball, yes, it's, again, backyard football, but he's a creator. He's a playmaker. He's never going to give up on a play. He's going to try to make things either with his – he hasn't took off as much with USC as I thought he would have. But, I mean, he's just creating time. The offensive line doesn't block for him. He's creating time. He's creating ways to get his guys the ball like a Rice. But he does require his number one wide receiver back. He's been out for a couple of weeks as well. So once he comes back, I mean, we could see this USC team. They're still in the national championship for all you college fans. I'm actually rooting for it. I hope it does happen.
I am too. And just to finish it off, like watching him, I can see why some people feel like he's a Patrick Mahomes and all that. You see the subtle comparisons. But if we just take Mahomes out of it, because we don't need to get clicks or anything like that, just to be completely real about it, watching him play, I just feel like he moves at a different pace than the actual competition on the field. He just has a level of, I guess you'd call it confidence, that's in the moment where you could tell by the way his body's moving that he feels like I'm better than the guy trying to stop me. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but there's certain athletes, when you watch the way they play the sport, there's some guys like Pacheco is someone that comes to mind right now. Fantastic running back, but he looks like he's trying so bloody hard to be good, right? So it doesn't translate as like, oh, that looks effortless. That looks hard as shit. He's running the hell out of the ground.
Yeah.
Caleb is like, dude, you're trying to, you tried to get me? Oh, let me just, you're trying. Oh, you're like, it just looks so easy. His facial expression is so calm. That's something you can't teach. And that's where I'm just like, you can't miss with players like that. I just feel like their level of talent, it seeps through them. He has a level of confidence that you can't teach.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. I think that some guys just have the it factor, and I mean, as whatever else you can claim it to be on a scouting report, it's like the it factor, and you can't pass up on guys like this because they are true playmakers. They'll put a team on their back, and you're never out of a contest when it comes to that. I'm not ready to say, Patrick Mahomes this, Patrick Mahomes that, but I understand where the comparisons do come from because he is, esque of that type of gameplay where he's going to flip the ball sideways. I mean, Patrick Mahomes diving like the Matrix. I mean, we could see that from Caleb as well because he's just his makeup is built that way. And I mean, they look good. I like Caleb. I think this draft could be absolutely stellar. We'll see if he comes out.
Let's play a quick game here before you sum this up. Quick game. Name some teams that off the top of your head that you are certain should not draft Caleb. Like who's like, we don't need Caleb.
I mean,
obviously the Chiefs,
Bills, Bengals. I mean,
Ravens.
Sure. Just because they paid Lamar. I mean, I would actually maybe even take a Caleb over Lamar at this point, but I mean, they paid him. I get it.
If we're saying that, then he's definitely a can't miss.
He's a can't miss.
Who else? If we say
Jaguars.
Let's just say Lamar. They paid Lamar.
Okay.
So we got them. Chargers,
Jaguars. Out. Who else is there that's got a QB? I mean, everyone else you can basically say. Even Tua. I would replace Tua with a Caleb.
That's saying a lot. What we're doing right now, to me, is saying a lot.
Right, absolutely. It says what his talent level threshold of the ceiling is.
We were really high on Bryce Young, and we were really high on CJ Stroud. You were even higher on CJ Stroud. We would not say these things about them.
Oh, see,
you'd be listening.
That's the question right there. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or a Caleb Williams. Exactly. That's the question. Like that's what you're saying. Man, it's a great debate. I wish we had more time to do it because we could fill another hour just on Caleb, but it's always good to have you on, man. Like I said, maybe we're going to be making this a weekly thing because, I mean, it's awesome and we love talking football. But for my guy, Eric, let's get the hell out of here, man. So as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts. Truly appreciate all the support from y'all. And I mean, drop in the comments you want to talk about any of these topics, but we'll see you next time. I am out.